and titles of each story for the library's electronic catalog. The town's past lives on in this catalog, linked with all the other libraries in South Dakota. Anyone can log on as a guest, consult Moody's Index online, and learn that the Black Hills Daily Times published a story in 1882 called, "Why Do We Not Have Library and Reading Rooms?" And 3 years later, Reading Room and Library Almost Complete, alongside stories like Accidental Shooting Part of a Free-for-All and Cowboys Shoot Up Resort. Moody, like her predecessor a century ago, is essentially organizing the past and making it available to the citizenry. But she's doing so in ways that the librarian of the late 1800s could never have imagined, preserving images of one frontier with the tools of another. What would the proper lady in the portrait make of the current librarian's tasks? The maintenance of the website, for instance, with its ghostly and omniscient reach. There's another Deadwood library on the digital frontier. This one doesn't resemble the elegant Carnegie building in the real town in South Dakota. It looks instead like a crude wooden storefront, but it too evokes the period that characterizes Deadwood, the late 1800s, the gold rush, and the Wild West. The difference is that this library exists solely on the web in the virtual world known as Second Life. People at computers around the globe, taking the form of avatars dressed in chaps and boots or long prairie dresses and playing the roles of prospectors, saloon keepers, and ordinary citizens, can visit the library in a historic reenactment of Deadwood in Second Life. They can enter this ramshackle building and, by typing questions in a chat box, ask the librarian what sort of outfit a prostitute would have worn, or where to find information on panning for gold. Or they can browse the collection the librarian has gathered in the form of links to dime novels and other old-time books, available in digital form from sites like Project Gutenberg and the Internet Archive. The librarian, Lena Keller, shows up on screen as a cartoon woman in a bustle skirt. The person behind this avatar was trained to provide Second Life reference services by a real-life reference librarian and is part of an information network anchored by hundreds of professional librarians who flock to this interactive site for fun and stay to volunteer their skills. They figure everyone should be able to use library services, even avatars. In fact, Lena Keller is a retired electrical engineer and locomotive buff from Illinois named Dave Mowini. He feels that taking on a woman's shape in Second Life makes him more approachable. Somewhere between Jeanette Moody's frontiers and Lena Keller's is the story of a profession in the midst of an occasionally mind-blowing transition. A library is a place to go for a reality check, a bracing dose of literature, or a true reflection of our history, whether it's a brick-and-mortar building constructed a century ago or a fanciful arrangement of computer codes. The librarian is the organizer, the animating spirit behind it, and the navigator. Her job is to create order out of the confusion of the past, even as she enables us to blast into the future. I became interested in librarians while researching my first book about obituaries. With the exception of a few showy eccentrics, like the former soldier in Hitler's army who had a sex change and took up professional whistling, the most engaging obit subjects were librarians. An obituary of a librarian could be about anything under the sun. A woman with a phenomenal memory, who recalled the books her aging patrons read as children and was also, incidentally, the best sailor on her stretch of the Maine coast. Or a man obsessed with maps who helped automate the Library of Congress's map catalog and paved the way for wonders like Google Maps. There were visionaries like Frederick Kilgore, the first to link libraries' computer catalogs to one another back in the late 60s. This was a great act in the history of knowledge, its efficient and useful multiplication. Under Kilgore's direction, what began as a few dozen college libraries